Hey lovers, Anthea here. I wanted to talk a little bit about an experience I had yesterday with this amazing man that I connected with. So I was running a webinar and only one person showed up, and it was like the universe had orchestrated this meeting for us. Yeah. Because when only one person shows up, I give them an option. I'm like, well, I can take you through the webinar, or I can give you a private coaching session. And so he opted for the private coaching session. And I was really honored that he, in a moment, in an instant, just like that, he trusted me with his heart, and he opened up and he shared about his pain and his grief and his guilt and regret from the past, right? And so there's a lot of healing that took place in that session. And it really, I have a deep sense of appreciation for men, and a deeper sense of appreciation for men who, they put their hand up and they say, you know what, I'm not okay, and I don't like how I behave, and I want to do the work, and I want to change. And because especially here in Australia, we have this, men are not taught how to be vulnerable and open-hearted, and how to be in touch with their emotions. Yeah, our men are like, we have this she'll be right attitude, he'll be right attitude here in this country. And so our men struggle to be in touch with their feminine side, which means that will play out in their relationships. They will struggle to be soft and gentle with their partners and lovers when their lovers become emotional. Now, the other thing that's against our men is their upbringing. Okay, now if you're a man and you were raised by parents who didn't have a healthy relationship and didn't model to you how to communicate in an open and loving and mature way, if your parents didn't model emotional maturity to you, that's going to play out in your romantic relationships as an adult. And then what will happen is you'll probably struggle to create deep intimacy in your relationships if you are guarded, if you don't know how to become emotionally vulnerable, if your partner doesn't feel emotionally safe with you because you don't know how to hold space for them, right? So it creates a lot of problems. So the other thing is that nobody teaches us how to communicate in that mature way. Right? So when things happen in relationships where we get triggered and we react and we attack rather than pulling back and going, oh, what's going on for you? Are you okay? Right? Because that's when we're emotionally mature, we know that when someone is acting something out, it's because of what's going on inside of them. Perhaps we've triggered them, right? But whatever's going on for them is what's going on for them. It's got nothing to do with us, really. But we get attacked. We attack our partners, right? So what's important is that you learn how to look at your own triggers, right? You learn how to self-regulate your emotions. You learn exactly what your emotions are trying to tell you, right? Because if you don't, you're going to be in this battle with your partner constantly, okay? And nobody wants that. So if you weren't taught how to communicate properly about how you feel, and if you weren't taught how to be vulnerable, and if you weren't taught what a healthy relationship between two adults looks like, then you're probably going to struggle in your romantic relationships. Yeah. And what happens is I've been working with a lot of people who are separated and divorced, who blame themselves for the breakdown of the marriage or the relationship, and they're now in a state of regret and guilt and shame. And when we dive deeper into what's going on for them and their upbringing, it all comes down to the same things. They were told to toughen up. They were told to stop crying, which is essentially stop feeling. When you tell a child to stop crying, you're telling them to stop feeling what they're feeling. No one taught you how to communicate. No one taught them how to communicate properly. Yeah. No one taught them how to take responsibility for their emotions, and they weren't modeled a healthy relationship. So that's really shit as a child. But as an adult, it's your responsibility to learn how to do all of those things so that you are mindful of how you show up in your relationships. Yeah, and you can actually communicate with your partner, hey, I notice that when you talk to me like that, I get really triggered. And it's the tone, like it's your tone, right? And I know that you don't want to talk to me like that, or that you're not intentionally talking to me like that. But it reminds me of when my dad used to yell at me when I was a kid. And your tone is triggering that in me. And I know I've got to work on that. But I just wanted to let you know, so you know if I get triggered, it's an old wound. It's not, and I'm understanding now that this is why I react the way I do, right? So it's really important, because when you learn how to communicate like that, then it softens arguments. It softens people feeling attacked, right? So in this conversation, in this session that I was having yesterday with this man, it was really beautiful because he opened up and he shared all this stuff with me. And, I was holding on to a lot of guilt and regret and shame. And the reality is that when we regret things from the past, we're looking back at our younger self and we're going, I can't believe you did that, you idiot. We're actually beating up our emotional body. Now, your emotional body is responsible for how you progress in life, okay? If your emotional body is bruised and broken and bleeding, you're going to really struggle to move forward in a healthy way. So think about the things you say to yourself. So regret, for example. If you're sitting there attacking yourself every single day going, you idiot, I can't believe you did that in the past, you lost them, you hurt yourself. If you're attacking yourself all day, you're literally punching your emotional body all day. So if I took your emotional body out of you right now and I put it next to you, would they be happy and healthy, or would they be broken and bleeding? This is what you've got to think about. How am I talking to myself? What are the things I'm thinking about myself? Right? So if you do that, you're basically saying you should have known better. Imagine saying to a child, you should have known better. What that's going to do for them. Let's say they tripped over and they fell and they broke their nose, and you said to them, you should have known better. Imagine what that's going to do to their confidence, their spirit. Imagine what it's going to do to their spirit. It's going to crush them, right? So think about what you say to yourself. And regret is kind of, you didn't know what you know now back then. So how were you going to have made a different decision, right? Yeah, maybe you did stuff things up. But what if, and I'm a strong believer of this, is that everything happens exactly the way it's meant to, and you can't stuff anything up that is meant for you, okay? Everything unfolds as it's meant to. And yes, it's painful, right? It's painful because this is how we grow. But what you've got to do is you've got to take the lessons from the past and move forward with them. Wow, I behaved like a jerk. I don't like what I said in that conversation. That's really ugly. My behavior was ugly. So I'm in enough pain now that I'm never going to behave like that again. I'm going to take responsibility for my actions because I don't want to be that person. And then you start moving forward. Yeah? And you honor that younger part of yourself who made those decisions, who taught you such valuable lessons. Because every time you look back and you beat that younger version of you up, you're dishonoring yourself. Yeah? And that hurts your emotional body. But when you look back and you go, I'm so sorry for beating you up for so long, and thank you for teaching me my worth, and thank you for teaching me how to be a better person, then it starts to heal your emotional body. Self-validation. You got to keep validating yourself all the time, right? So if you're in a position where you're not happy and you're like, oh, how did we get here, Anthea? I don't like feeling this rejection, say, right? I don't like feeling this rejection, but that's okay. I've learnt my lesson. Moving forward, we're going to make different choices that don't lead to this rejection again. I know how I got here, but that's okay. I'm still learning and growing. Yeah. Healing the emotional body, self-validation. You're doing the best you can. Yeah. You're doing everything you can. You're being a good role model to your kids. Yeah, you're doing it tough, but you're doing it good, right? That's okay. We're going to get there in the end. So you got to keep validating yourself, okay? And then you got to learn how to communicate. And you got to learn how to be vulnerable. And you got to learn how to accept rejection with grace. And then you got to learn how to continue to heal your emotional body and your inner child so that you don't damage your relationships with others. So I'm a strong believer that every relationship, every issue in every relationship, in every connection boils down to one simple thing, which is it's communication. Communication will either strengthen your relationships and your connections, or the lack of communication will destroy them. Yeah, not being open and honest will destroy them. So in the moment a relationship breaks down, make sure it's not because of your inability to communicate or your lack of honesty, because that's the stuff that eats away at you later. Yeah. So let's talk about grieving the future for a moment. When a relationship ends, when a connection ends, a part of your soul is severed. Yeah, that part of you that was the way you were with that other person, it's severed. Yeah, because it's unique. You know, they probably brought out this joy in you, your inner child, this childlike essence of curiosity and excitement. And that part actually gets severed when the relationship ends. So not only are you grieving that part of you, you're grieving losing the relationship, but then you also start grieving the future that is never going to be. And I think that's probably one of the most painful things, because as we do, especially us romantics, we start to think about what life could be like with this person in the future. We start to think about what we could experience, the depth of where this relationship could take us, right? And it becomes more exciting. But what we forget to do is we forget to drop that. And it's really important to drop the fantasy of what could be, so that you don't end up grieving the future later. But if you have fantasized, which most of us do, then you will grieve that too. You will grieve what could have been. And so it's really important to be really gentle with yourself, that if you are in that place and if you are grieving the future, that you just allow yourself to grieve. Just accept it. Just accept. I feel like shit right now. I'm so sad. I miss that person. I miss how I was with them. If you just accept that this is how you feel right now, it's going to help you heal. Yeah? And it's how you choose yourself. So instead of trying to chase something new or someone new, just keep choosing you by loving and accepting yourself. And if you can't love yourself, just accept how you feel. I feel really sad that relationship is over. So I'm just going to allow myself to be sad until it disperses. And when you sit with the pain long enough, it disperses, and it starts to disperse really quickly. Okay? So I hope this video has helped you in some way. You know, big shout out to everyone doing the work on themselves and healing their inner child, and, you know, actually trying to better themselves and become stronger and become a better person, right? And a big shout out to the men who keep showing up and who are starting to show up and actually are putting their hands up and saying, you know what? I realize that there's a lot I don't know, and I'm willing to be open-minded, and I'm willing to listen to other perspectives, and I'm willing to smash my wounded ego and allow myself to see a different way of being and becoming, right? Because we're so conditioned in these little boxes that we see life in like through these filters, right? And when people put their hand up and they're like, show me a different way, give me a different perspective, that's when we start to open our mind. That's when we start to have these awakenings where we can transform our limiting beliefs. And I really honor all the men that are showing up in my reality at the moment. And they're putting their hands up, and they're actually asking for help. And I feel really honored that I get to support them, because it takes courage to do that. It takes courage to actually, you know what? I don't agree with you, but I wanna learn. So I'm gonna sit through that discomfort and I'm gonna learn, right? So I'll just have a look. There's a little comment here. I'm just going to see. Oh, it's a long one. I'm not going to read it now, but I'll respond to you later, Jimmy. But guys, sending you so much love. Thank you so much for watching. If this has helped you in some way, please drop me a comment so I can get some feedback. And if this has helped you and you think of someone that it may help, just share it with them. And I hope you have a beautiful day.